Hi guys, today we're going to be working in Adobe Illustrator. If you could please open it. If you go down to your startup menu, all you're going to do is go to Adobe Design and Web Premium, and you're going to select Adobe Illustrator CS6. I already have mine open, so what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is open up a new artboard. So I already have this artboard open that says Fun with Shapes. I'm going to open another one. I'll do this real quickly with you. You're going to go to File, New, and type in the title of your artwork. How about Fun with Shapes 2? This is for print. I always get in the habit of just selecting one of the profiles. I'm not going to use it for web, but I'm going to go to print. You want to change your letter size to inches so you know how many inches it is. That's fine. That's there too. And you're going to click OK. All right. So I have a new layer that's open. And if you look to the right here, we have our layers palette. Layers are really handy when working. What it just means is that imagine having a canvas and you have different layers of paint. You have your first layer of paint and then maybe your second layer of paint. Down here in the bottom, we can add additional layers. We're not going to really need additional layers today because this is just a tutorial, but I just wanted to show you that this is here. So you can just hit delete. If it's not showing up for you, it should be here in your palettes bar, and just click on the two things that look like sheets of paper stacked, and it opens right up for you. So I'm going to leave that open. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my toolbar, and I'm going to click on our shapes. And if I click and drag, I can see a variety of different shapes that are there. So for example, rectangle tool. So I'm going to select that, since now that's highlighted, and then I'm going to click and drag on my paper. And as I click and drag and move my cursor around, it creates a shape. Now, if I want to keep it a square, hold down your Shift key, and that will keep it a square. But if I want to make, say, for example, a rectangle, then I wouldn't hold any of the buttons down on the keyboard. Okay, so I'm going to make a variety of different shapes on my artboard here. Try to play around with some different sizes. I don't know, maybe a polygon. All right, cool. All right, so I have some different shapes here. Now I'm going to have you guys select your selection tool. And the selection tool is really helpful because what it does is it selects any shape, line, color, anything that's been created on our artboard. And we can see what's been created or painted or drawn or typed on our artboard by looking at our layers palette. Now on layer 1, I have all these different shapes. And if I drop down this menu, it's going to show me all the different shapes that I made. Circle, star, right? And as I click on them, on the right here, it's going to select the different ones. Now what you can also see is what layer is on the top or what is in the foreground. And normally it's the last shape that you made. So for example, the last shape I made was this hexagon, and that's on top of my oval, which is, oh, my star I guess was next. So my star, then my oval, and then I have my rectangle should fit behind the oval. Okay, so this is the order that I created them on the page, and then that is the order that they stack up in our layers palette. Now, if you wanted to put something in the background, maybe I don't want this hexagon on top, I'm just going to drag it down, ta-da, and that puts it in the background. Okay, same thing, or I could put the star in the middle. It's totally up to you. With the selection tool, another thing that you can do is change the size. So say this hexagon is too big, I want to make it smaller. I can just click and drag the points around the edges. They look like little white boxes. And I can manipulate the size however I want. I can also rotate this if I like by hovering over my cursor. Just hover, you're not clicking, over the corner, and it gives me a little arrow that allows me to rotate the shape. And as I'm rotating, you'll notice that there are some green lines that pop up. And what that's doing is it's showing me smart guides. Smart guides allow you to align objects. It recognizes relationships between space of objects. So right now, as I have this turned at 59.19 degrees, you can see the little markup on the page here. It's showing that it's lined, that corner is lined up with the center of the oval that's there. So that's just one thing. For this project, we really don't need to line things up, but what we're going to do is right now with our cursor or our selection tool is we can change the fill, which means just the inside fill or the color of our shape. So here we have a palette across the top. So I can click any color that I want. I can also change the border color. So if I want to change the border, which is also known as the stroke, I can pick a different color for that. I can change the size of the stroke. These are in points. Yeah, that's too thick. And I can even change the uniform of it. So for example, I can have thick and thin lines. I'm just going to unclick so you can kind of see how there's thin lines on this edge. There's also textures that are in here that can, you got to make sure that the shape is selected in order to change it. And that gives it a rough texture on the outside. Opacity just means that the transparency or its ability to be see-through changes. So for example, if, this one's in the background, so I need to drag it up. But if I drag this maybe over my star and I turn the opacity down, now I can see the star kind of coming through it. So this is kind of a neat effect to create like a stained glass look. But I'm going to change it back to 100%. And I'm going to turn this off and go back to our regular settings. Okay, and I'm going to overlap some shapes. So I'm going to click on a couple shapes and overlap them to make a new shape. So once I like the shape that I've created, I'm looking at the outside border. Okay, I'm going to select them. So I'm going to take my selection tool, draw a box around my shapes, and it's going to select all of my shapes. And I can see the whole shape even though it's hidden behind other shapes because the lines become thinner. Then I'm going to go over to my shape builder tool. Okay. And I'm going to connect these shapes together. Now, as I hover over the different shapes, I can see new shapes that were created by the overlapping. Okay. And what that's going to ask me is, do you want to take this area and drag it into this area to become one? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click and drag. And now the red area becomes the new shape. Okay. And I can continue to keep doing this until I have one big solid shape that's there. Now when I go to fill this in, it's going to fill it all in one point, and that's all going to be on the same layer. So what I like for you guys to do today is play around with making shapes and using that shape builder tool to build other shapes. And that's it.